The sensor array flickered with an anomaly that made Rena's antennae twitch involuntarily. She had been monitoring deep space readings for 3 years now, watching the endless dance of stars and the predictable movements of registered vessels. This was different. The energy signature blooming at the edge of the Sanctuary 7 system registered at levels her equipment labeled as impossible. "Supervisor Hallex, I have something strange here," Rena called across the monitoring station, her chitinous fingers dancing over the holographic display. The insectoid analyst pulled up comparative data from the last 2 centuries. Nothing matched. Hallex glided over on his feathered wings, talons clicking against the metal floor. The avian commander had seen many false alarms in his career, but the expression on Rena's face made his crest feathers stand upright. "Show me." The hologram expanded between them, revealing a vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel. Hallex felt his twin hearts skip a beat. The ship measured 12 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with structures that could only be weapon emplacements. Every species in the Galactic Council maintained ceremonial defense forces, small frigates that mostly directed traffic and responded to accidents. This was something else entirely. "Run identification protocols," Hallex ordered, though his voice cracked slightly. "Already done, sir. The signature matches Earth registry, it's human." The word hung in the air like a physical thing. Humans had joined the Galactic Council only 3 years ago, a young species that kept mostly to themselves. They attended diplomatic functions, established trade agreements, and asked more questions than they answered. Their home world, Earth, remained closed to visitors. They claimed they were still adjusting to galactic society, needed time to integrate properly. Now Hallex understood why. "Sound evacuation protocols," he said quietly. "Get every civilian to the transport ships." "Sir, that seems extreme. Perhaps they're just—" "Look at that vessel, Rena. Look at it." Hallex pointed at the hologram with a wing tip. "We have been at peace for 200 years. Our largest military ship is the Peacekeeper, which is 1 kilometer long and carries ceremonial plasma cannons that could barely scratch an asteroid. That thing could swallow the Peacekeeper whole." Around the monitoring station, alarms began their low wail. Other analysts looked up from their stations, confusion spreading across faces of a dozen different species. Hallex knew what they were thinking. War was ancient history, something their ancestors had overcome through diplomacy and reason. Military buildups belonged to the savage past. Except humanity apparently missed that lesson. "Incoming transmission request from the human vessel," Rena reported, her voice steadier now that training took over. "They're asking to speak with station authority." "Route it to Ambassador Taran's office. This is beyond my clearance." 3 levels down, Ambassador Taran sat in her office reviewing trade negotiations when her communication console lit up with urgent priority markers. The mammalian diplomat had built her career on finding common ground between species, on crafting agreements that satisfied everyone involved. She believed in the power of words, in the inevitability of peaceful solutions. The holographic display activated before she could accept the call, which was itself a breach of protocol. The image resolved into a human woman wearing a dark uniform with strange insignia. The human appeared to be in her middle years, with short dark hair touched with gray and eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. "Ambassador Taran, I am Captain Rachel Foster of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiant. Thank you for accepting my transmission." Taran noticed the human had not actually given her a choice, but decided not to mention it. "Captain Foster, your arrival has caused considerable alarm. Sanctuary 7 is a neutral diplomatic station. Military vessels require advance clearance in." "I apologize for the disruption, Ambassador. We received a distress signal from one of our civilian transports, the Meridian. 300 colonists, including 70 children. The signal originated from the Thresh Nebula approximately 6 hours ago and then went silent." The Thresh Nebula. Taran felt her fur prickle. Captain, the nebula region is complicated. Various independent groups operate there. Council policy is to negotiate for the release of any detained vessels through proper diplomatic channels. Independent groups. Foster's expression did not change, but something in her tone made Taran's whiskers tremble. You mean pirates? We prefer to view them as non-aligned entities with their own territorial claims. I see. And how long does this diplomatic negotiation typically take? It varies, anywhere from several weeks to a few months, depending on the complexity of demands. Foster nodded slowly. Ambassador, our people have 6 days of life support remaining at most. That's assuming the Meridian systems haven't been damaged further. We don't have weeks. We don't have months. I understand your concern, Captain, but rushing into the nebula with a military vessel could escalate the situation dramatically. These groups respond poorly to shows of force. They might harm the civilians out of spite. What's your success rate for these negotiations? Taran hesitated. The Council prioritizes peaceful resolution above all else. Sometimes that means making difficult compromises. How many ships have you lost to these pirates in the last decade? The question hit Taran like a physical blow. She thought of the reports, the ones filed quietly and archived without much discussion. Vessels that vanished, crews that were never recovered, families that received condolences and small monetary compensation. That information is not readily available, Taran said carefully. Foster leaned forward slightly. Ambassador, I'm going to retrieve our people. I'm informing you as a courtesy and to maintain diplomatic relations. But whether you grant permission or not, the Defiant is heading into that nebula. We don't leave our people behind. We don't negotiate with kidnappers while innocents suffer. Captain, I must warn you that aggressive action could be interpreted as a declaration of war against whatever group controls that territory. The consequences are my responsibility, Defiant out. The transmission ended abruptly. Taran sat in silence, staring at the empty space where Foster's image had been. Through her office window, she could see the massive human warship beginning to move, its bulk blocking out stars as it oriented toward the nebula. She had built her career on diplomacy, on the belief that every conflict could be resolved through patient negotiation. But watching that ship move with terrible purpose, she wondered if perhaps humanity understood something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Sometimes the only language predators understood was strength. Inside the Defiant's Combat Information Center, First Officer David Ockafer studied the tactical display with practiced eyes. The nebula stretched across their projected path like a purple and crimson bruise against the black of space, its electromagnetic interference creating sensor shadows where anything could hide. Talk to me, Iris, Ockafer said to the weapons officer at the station beside him. Lieutenant Iris Volkov pulled up enhanced scans, her fingers moving across controls with the precision of someone who had run these scenarios 1,000 times in training. The nebula is playing havoc with standard sensors, sir. Thermal signatures are scattered. Could be stellar remnants, could be ships. We won't know until we're inside. Estimated time to penetrate the outer boundary: 2 hours at current speed. Captain wants us ready for combat operations before we cross the threshold. Ockafer nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the XO. We are approaching the Thresh Nebula to retrieve the civilian transport Meridian. Battle stations in 90 minutes. Department heads, report readiness status to your section commanders. Foster out. He caught himself using the captain's name instead of his own and smiled slightly. 3 years on the Defiant, and he still did that sometimes. Foster had that effect on people. She commanded not through intimidation, but through absolute competence and an unwavering commitment to bringing everyone home. The crew responded with the efficiency Earth's military had spent centuries perfecting. Damage control teams positioned themselves at key junctions. Medical bays prepared for potential casualties. Engineering balanced power distribution between shields, weapons, and propulsion. Every person knew their role, had trained until the movements became instinct. On the bridge, Captain Foster sat in her command chair, reviewing the limited intelligence they had on the Thresh Nebula and its inhabitants. The Vrex clan operated in this region, according to galactic databases. Reptilian pirates who had been raiding merchant vessels for over 15 years with apparent impunity. Captain, we're receiving a narrowband transmission from inside the nebula, the communications officer reported. Audio only, badly degraded. Put it through. Static filled the bridge, then a human voice cut through, weak but recognizable. This is Meridian, under attack, life support failing. Anyone, please. The message cut off. Foster's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Time stamp on that transmission. 4 hours ago, ma'am. 4 hours. They might already be too late, but Foster had not built her career on pessimism. Helm, increased to maximum safe speed. Engineering, I want every available joule to the engines. Aye, Captain. ETA now 93 minutes. Foster stood and walked to the forward viewport, hands clasped behind her back. Behind her, the bridge crew worked with quiet intensity. She thought about the colonists aboard the Meridian. Teachers, farmers, engineers, children. People who had signed up to build a new life on a distant world, not to be caught in pirate territory. Captain, Akifer approached, his voice low. Ambassador Taran is requesting another call. Patch her through to my ready room. Inside the small office adjacent to the bridge, Foster accepted the holographic connection. Taran appeared, her fur slightly disheveled, whiskers twitching with agitation. Captain Foster, I have conferred with my superiors in the council. We are formally requesting that you stand down and allow us to handle this situation through established channels. With respect, Ambassador, no. Captain, you don't understand the delicate balance of power in this region. The Vrex have connections to other groups. If you attack them, you could trigger a cascade of retaliation that 300 people are dying, Foster interrupted, her voice calm but unyielding. I'm not interested in political complications. I'm interested in bringing them home. And if you start a war, then we'll finish it. Foster saw Taran's shocked expression and softened her tone slightly. Ambassador, I understand you believe in diplomacy. That's admirable. But diplomacy only works when both sides want peace. These pirates prey on the weak because no one has ever made them pay a price for it. That ends today. You're so certain violence is the answer. I'm certain that doing nothing is not the answer. How many ships has your council lost to pirates in the past decade? Taran's silence was answer enough. My species spent thousands of years learning a hard truth, Foster continued. Evil that goes unopposed doesn't go away. It grows bolder. These pirates have been operating freely because the Council chooses negotiation over confrontation every single time. That's not peace, Ambassador. That's surrender on the installment plan. And what happens after you rescue your people? Will Earth become the galaxy's self-appointed police force? We're not interested in policing anyone, but we will protect our people. And if other species want the same protection, we can discuss that. Foster checked her chronometer. I need to go, Ambassador. We're entering the nebula in 60 minutes. Captain, please, just wait. Give us 48 hours to establish contact with the Vrex to begin negotiations. In 48 hours, everyone on that transport will be dead. Foster met Taran's eyes through the hologram. I'm sorry, Ambassador, I truly am. But I didn't bring the Defiant out here to file reports and send condolences. I brought it to bring our people home, all of them, alive. The connection ended. Foster returned to the bridge where her crew had brought the ship to full combat readiness. Weapon systems hummed with contained power. Shield generators cycled through final diagnostics. Fighter craft sat in launch tubes, pilots strapped in and running pre-flight checks. "Status?" Foster asked. "All stations report ready, Captain," HFY confirmed. "We are at Combat Alert Alpha. The Defiant is ready for war." Foster nodded and returned to her command chair. On the main view screen, the nebula loomed larger, its swirling gases hiding whatever lay within. Somewhere in that cosmic storm, 300 people waited for rescue. They had no idea help was coming. They probably thought they had been abandoned, that the galaxy's famous diplomacy meant they were just acceptable losses in some political calculation. But they were about to learn something the rest of the galaxy had not yet discovered. Humans did not calculate acceptable losses. Humans did not abandon their own. And humans had spent their entire violent history learning one lesson that no amount of peaceful civilization could erase. When something you love is threatened, you don't negotiate, you fight. "All hands, this is the captain," Foster announced shipwide. "We're going into that nebula and we're bringing the Meridian crew home. Stay sharp, trust your training, and remember what we're fighting for. Not territory, not politics, not revenge. We fight to protect. Foster out." The Defiant crossed into the nebula, and the galaxy's age of uncontested piracy came to an end. Aboard his flagship Crimson Fang, Skrull examined the Meridian with the satisfaction of a hunter who had cornered easy prey. The human transport drifted helplessly, its engines disabled by precise plasma fire. His 6 escort vessels surrounded it in a loose formation, weapons trained on the hull in case the mammals inside tried something foolish. "How much longer until their life support fails?" Skrull asked his second-in-command, a smaller reptilian named Vress. "Perhaps 4 days, maybe 5. The initial damage was more extensive than anticipated." Skrull's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the recycled air of his bridge. 4 days gave him time to contact his buyers. Humans were new to the galaxy, which made them exotic. Exotic meant valuable. Medical research facilities would pay premium prices for live specimens, especially the young ones. "Send a message to the usual channels. 300 humans, various ages, good health. Bidding starts at—" "Sir, we have a contact," Vress interrupted, his scales flushing with alarm. "Large vessel approaching from the nebula's outer edge." Skrull moved to the sensor display, irritation turning to amusement. Probably a council patrol ship coming to negotiate. They always did. The council would offer some credits, perhaps some trade goods, and Skrull would graciously accept. The council called it diplomacy. Skrull called it tribute. Then he saw the sensor readings, and his amusement died. "That can't be accurate," Skrull said, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Run diagnostics." "Already done, sir. The readings are correct. That vessel is over 12 kilometers long and reading massive power signatures. I'm detecting weapon systems, multiple types, energy weapons, kinetic weapons, missile batteries." "What species?" Vress worked his controls, his claws trembling slightly. "According to the identification beacon, it's human, sir." Silence fell over the Crimson Fang's bridge. Skrull had raided human vessels twice before, small cargo ships with minimal defenses. The humans had tried to fight with whatever makeshift weapons they could improvise, which Skrull found admirable but ultimately pointless. This was different. "Battle formation," Skrull ordered, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Bring all weapons online. If they want their people back, they'll pay. And if they try to threaten us, we'll show them what happens when someone challenges the Vrex clan." His crew scrambled to obey, moving their 6 vessels into an attack pattern around the Meridian. Skrull had been raiding these trade routes for 15 years. He had faced Council security forces dozens of times. They always backed down. Always. The massive human warship emerged from the purple-red gases of the nebula like some ancient predator stepping from primordial fog. Its hull was dark gray, angular, covered in sensor arrays and weapon ports. It moved with surprising grace for something so large, maneuvering thrusters adjusting its course with precision. Skrull composed himself and opened a communication channel. Time to establish dominance. Human vessel, you are interfering with Vrex clan operations. The ship you see is now our property by right of capture. You will reverse course immediately or face destruction. The response came within seconds. A human female appeared on his view screen, wearing a military uniform and an expression of such cold calm that Skrull felt an unfamiliar sensation crawl down his spine. Fear. This is Captain Rachel Foster of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiant. The ship you have captured contains 300 Earth citizens. You have 60 seconds to power down your weapons, release the Meridian, and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. Skrull forced a laugh, showing his fangs. You think to intimidate me, human? I have raided these routes for 15 years. The Council always negotiates, always pays. You are new here, so perhaps you don't understand how things work. I understand perfectly. You prey on the weak because no one has stopped you. Foster's expression did not change. 45 seconds. My clan has connections throughout this sector. Attack us and you'll start a war. 30 seconds. Rage replaced fear in Skrull's mind. How dare this human, this newcomer species, issue ultimatums to him? He had built his reputation on violence, on showing that the Vrex clan feared nothing. He would not be humiliated by mammals who had barely left their own world. You want war, we'll give you war, Skrull snarled. All ships target that vessel, fire. The Crimson Fang's plasma cannons erupted, sending superheated bolts across the space between them. The other 5 Vrex ships followed suit, concentrating their fire on the Defiant's forward section. The plasma dissipated against the human ship's shields like water against stone. Not even a flicker of power fluctuation registered. Skrull stared at his weapons officer. Fire again, maximum intensity. Another barrage, another complete failure to penetrate. The Defiant continued its approach, unhurried, implacable. On the human ship's bridge, Lieutenant Volkov reported calmly. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields, Captain. Military-grade defensive systems are holding at 98% capacity. Target their engines, Foster ordered. Precision strikes. Disable, don't destroy. Aye, ma'am. Firing solution locked. The Defiant's railgun spoke, and Skrull's world turned into chaos. Magnetic acceleration launched tungsten slugs at a fraction of light speed, crossing the distance in heartbeats. The kinetic strikes hit with surgical precision, shearing through engine assemblies without touching crew compartments. 4 of the Vrex ships went dark in 12 seconds, their propulsion systems destroyed, life support intact but mobility gone. The remaining 2, including Skrull's flagship, attempted to flee. Launch fighters, Foster said quietly. From the Defiant's launch bays, 12 small craft erupted into space. Each carried a single pilot and enough firepower to disable a frigate. They moved with a coordination that spoke of countless training hours, cutting off the escape vectors of the fleeing pirate ships. Skrull watched his sensor display in disbelief. His weapons were useless. His speed was irrelevant. His reputation meant nothing. For the first time in 15 years, he was the prey. Target their bridge, he heard his weapons officer say desperately. Maybe we can. The Defiant's response was immediate. A single railgun shot struck the Crimson Fang's weapons array, destroying it completely. The explosion rocked the ship but left life support and crew areas untouched. Foster's voice came over all channels, broadcasting to every Vrex ship. This is your final chance. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. If you refuse, my next shots will target your life support systems. You have 10 seconds to comply. Skrull looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, their scales pale with terror. He had built his reputation on being the predator, the strong, the one who took what he wanted. But predators knew when they had met something higher on the food chain. "Power down," he said quietly. "All systems, we surrender." Across the formation, the other Vrex ships followed suit, their vessels going dark. Only emergency systems remained active, barely enough to sustain life. Foster watched the tactical display as 6 pirate vessels surrendered. Launch rescue teams to the Meridian, medical personnel on standby. Akafar, take a security team and secure the pirate vessels. Minimal force, but I want every crew member in restraints. "Aye, Captain, what about their leader?" Foster looked at Skrull's image on her view screen, seeing his defeat and shame. "Bring him aboard. He's going to answer some questions about every ship his clan has raided in the last 15 years. Within the hour, the Meridian's crew had been extracted. 12 injured, none critical. The human colonists wept with relief as Defiant's medical teams worked on them, unable to believe rescue had actually come. On the bridge, Akafar reported, "All prisoners secured, Captain. The pirates are terrified. They keep asking if we're going to execute them." Foster shook her head. "We're not executioners. We'll turn them over to council authorities for trial. But first, Skrull is going to tell us about every raid, every victim, every ship they've taken. The galaxy needs to know what's been happening out here." She looked at the tactical display, showing the captured pirate vessels. This was just one clan, one small group of predators. How many others operated freely because no one had ever challenged them? The galaxy was about to receive an education. News of the Defiant's actions reached the Galactic Council chambers through a dozen different channels simultaneously. Commercial vessels that had monitored the engagement from safe distances. Automated relay stations that recorded the battle. Even some of Skrull's own crew, transmitting surrender signals that rippled through communication networks. High Counselor Wren felt the collective shock through his telepathic senses as representatives from 12 species gathered in emergency session. The ancient being had served the Council for 60 years, guiding the galaxy toward peace through patience and diplomacy. He had believed war was a relic of primitive times, something evolved species left behind. The humans apparently disagreed. "This is an outrage," Ambassador Prin from the Voreth delegation declared, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. "The humans deployed military force without council authorization. They attacked vessels in neutral space. They rescued 300 civilians," interrupted Representative Bessa of the Corin Trade Confederation. Her aquatic form rippled in its containment suit. "Let's not pretend we don't know what the Vrex clan does. They're pirates." "Non-aligned entities with territorial claims," Wren corrected gently. His telepathic voice resonated in everyone's minds, calm and measured. "We have established protocols for dealing with such situations." "You mean paying ransoms," Bessa said flatly. "I have 12 ships in my fleet that travel those routes. Every year we budget for piracy losses. It's cheaper than building military vessels." "Pragmatism is not cowardice," Wren replied. "We choose negotiation because violence begets more violence. Today the humans attack pirates. Tomorrow will they attack anyone who disagrees with them?" Ambassador Taran stood, her fur slightly disheveled from lack of sleep. She had spent the past 6 hours fielding communications from dozens of worlds, all wanting to know the same thing. Were humans dangerous? "High Counselor, Captain Foster has requested to address the Council. I believe we should hear her explanation before passing judgment." "Judgment?" Wren's mental voice carried surprise. "We are not a court, Ambassador. We are a deliberative body. But yes, let us hear what this captain has to say." The holographic projection activated in the center of the chamber. Captain Foster appeared, still in her uniform, standing on the Defiance bridge. Behind her, crew members moved with quiet efficiency, their actions speaking to military discipline. High Counselor representatives, thank you for this opportunity, Foster began. I understand my actions have caused concern. That was not my intention. Your intentions matter less than the consequences, Wren said. You deployed overwhelming military force against vessels that, while engaged in questionable activities, posed no threat to Earth itself. This sets a dangerous precedent. With respect, Counselor, the Vrex clan was holding 300 Earth citizens hostage. That is absolutely a threat to Earth. And you could not wait for diplomatic channels to secure their release. In the time it would take to begin negotiations, those people would have died. Their life support was failing. Foster's expression remained calm, professional. I made a tactical decision based on immediate threat assessment. That's what military commanders do. Representative Gorth, a massive bear-like creature from the Ursinian worlds, leaned forward. Captain, your ship carries enough firepower to destroy planets. Forgive our concern, but we must ask, what are Earth's intentions? To protect our people and our interests, nothing more. And if protecting your interests conflicts with Council policy? Wren asked. Foster paused, choosing her words carefully. Counselor, I've reviewed your records from the past decade. The Vrex clan has attacked 47 vessels in Council space. They've taken over 2,000 individuals captive. Your response has been to negotiate payments, to let them operate freely as long as they don't escalate too far. We have kept the peace, Wren insisted. You've kept the peace for those strong enough to pay ransoms or avoid dangerous regions. What about the families who couldn't afford to buy back their loved ones? What about the crews that were sold to research facilities or labor camps? Foster's voice remained level, but something in her eyes hardened. That's not peace, Counselor. That's selective protection. The chamber erupted. Half the representatives shouted agreement, the other half demanded Foster's removal. Wren raised a mental wave of calm, quieting the assembly. You presume to lecture us on peace. Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel. Earth's history is written in blood, wars that consumed entire continents, weapons that poisoned your own world. And now you bring that violence here to a galaxy that has evolved beyond such barbarism. Foster did not flinch. You're right about our history. We have done terrible things. We've fought wars over resources, beliefs, territory. We've built weapons capable of ending our entire species. But we learned from those mistakes. We learned that evil allowed to flourish doesn't go away, it metastasizes. We learned that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to be strong enough that predators fear you. Fear, Wren repeated. You would rule through fear. No, Counselor, we would deter through strength. There's a difference. Foster gestured to someone off-screen, and a data packet transmitted to the Council's systems. This is information Skrull provided, a complete accounting of every raid his clan has conducted, every victim taken, every demand made. I think you should review it. Taran accessed the data, her eyes widening as she scanned the contents. 17 vessels in just the last 2 years. Victims sold, ransomed, or worse. Financial records showing regular payments from Council-affiliated merchants and governments, all documented as negotiation settlements. We have protocols, Wren said, but his mental voice had lost some of its certainty. Proper channels for addressing criminal activity. Your proper channels let this happen for 15 years, Foster countered. And the Vrex aren't alone. My ship detected 17 other distress signals while we were in the nebula. 17 calls for help that went unanswered because your security forces don't patrol those regions. Too dangerous, I was told. Not worth the resources. You don't understand the complexity, Prin began. I understand that people are suffering while you debate complexity. Foster's voice cut through the chamber. I understand that children are being sold into slavery while you maintain your precious protocols. I understand that you've chosen to look away because confronting the problem would be difficult and expensive and might require you to actually use force. Silence fell. Even Wren, who had guided the council for decades, found himself without immediate response. The truth in Foster's words was uncomfortable, undeniable. Bessa spoke carefully. "Captain, let us assume you are correct, that our approach has been insufficient. What would you have us do? Build weapons, create military forces, become conquerors?" "No, but maybe stop pretending that pacifism and cowardice are the same thing." Foster's expression softened slightly. "Counselor Wren, you said Earth's history is written in blood. You're right. But do you know what else it's written in? Sacrifice. Courage. Standing up to bullies even when it's easier to look away. We don't want to police the galaxy, but we will protect our people. And if other species want the same protection, if they want their trade routes safe and their citizens secure, we can discuss partnership." Partnership, Wren's mental voice carried skepticism, or subjugation. Partnership equals working together. We provide security, you provide logistics, intelligence, coordination. We don't answer to you, you don't answer to us, but we cooperate toward a common goal. Representative Gorth rumbled thoughtfully. "And what do you want in return for this security?" "Nothing you wouldn't willingly give. Trade agreements, technology sharing, cultural exchange. We're not interested in conquest or tribute. We just want to live in a galaxy where our people can travel safely." The council chamber buzzed with conversation as representatives conferred with their home governments. Wren watched Foster's image, trying to read the human through conventional and telepathic means. He sensed no deception, no hidden agenda, just absolute conviction that her approach was correct. Perhaps that was what worried him most. 3 weeks after the Thresh Nebula incident, Rena sat at her monitoring station aboard Sanctuary 7 and watched the Defiant pass on routine patrol. The massive warship had become a familiar sight, its presence both comforting and unsettling in ways the young analyst struggled to articulate. Her children would be coming through this system next week on a school transport, traveling to the educational complex on Harmony Station. Before the Defiant's arrival, Rena would have worried. The route passed through regions where pirates sometimes operated. Council security vessels patrolled, but everyone knew their capabilities were limited. Now she didn't worry. Pirates had vanished from the surrounding sectors like morning mist under a harsh sun. Word had spread through criminal networks with remarkable speed. Avoid any region where Earth ships operated. The price of defiance was too high. Hallex glided over to her station, his feathers less ruffled than they had been 3 weeks ago. "Any unusual activity?" "No, sir. Just regular commercial traffic. 37 vessels logged in the past hour, all proceeding to their destinations without incident." "Without incident," Hallex repeated. "Those are words I never thought I'd use so consistently." He gestured at the display showing the Defiant's course. "Have you noticed the cargo manifests? Merchant vessels that used to avoid this region entirely are now routing through it regularly." Rena pulled up the data. Hallex was right. Trade traffic had increased by 40% in just 3 weeks. Ships that previously took longer, safer routes now chose the more direct path through formerly dangerous space. "The Earth vessel isn't even doing anything aggressive," Rena observed. "It just exists, and that's enough." "Deterrence," Hallex said quietly. "An ancient concept. My species practiced it millennia ago before we evolved beyond such things, or so we thought." On the Defiance bridge, Captain Foster reviewed reports from intelligence analysts who had been interviewing Skrull and his crew. The pirate leader had proven remarkably forthcoming, once he realized cooperation might reduce his sentence. The information he provided painted a disturbing picture of galactic crime networks that operated openly, secure in the knowledge that Council security forces lacked the will or capability to stop them. "Captain, we have 17 confirmed pirate bases operating within 5 sectors of Council space," Okafor reported, highlighting locations on the tactical display. "Each one has been active for at least a decade. They coordinate attacks, share intelligence, even have agreements about territorial divisions. And the Council knows about this. According to the data Skrull provided, yes. They've filed reports, made official protests, attempted diplomatic resolutions, all unsuccessful. Foster studied the map, noting the trade routes that passed near each base. Thousands of civilian vessels traveled those paths annually. Hundreds had been attacked. The economic cost alone was staggering, but the human cost was what truly bothered her. What's the status on the other distress signals we detected? 4 were legitimate emergencies. 2 ships with mechanical failures, 1 medical emergency, 1 attacked by different pirate group. All have been resolved. The remaining signals were either false positives or resolved before we could investigate. And our rescued colonists? All recovered. Medical has cleared most of them for transfer to their original destination. They're asking to meet with you before they leave. Foster nodded. Schedule it for this afternoon. What about the pirates we captured? Transferred to Council custody as requested. Ambassador Taran sent a personal message thanking you for your cooperation with proper legal channels. A slight smile crossed Foster's face. I'm learning slowly. The door chimed and Lieutenant Volkov entered, carrying a data pad. Captain, you need to see this. We've received 47 communications from various species governments, not through the Council but directly to us. 47 about what? Requests for security partnerships. Most are from smaller species without significant military capability. They're asking if Earth would be willing to patrol their space, provide escort services, assist with counter-piracy operations. Foster took the data pad and scanned through the requests. Sincere pleas from governments whose people traveled dangerous routes, offers of payment, trade agreements, technology sharing. Some even offered basing rights on their worlds. This is beyond my authority, Foster said. I need to kick this up to command. With respect, ma'am, you've already made the decision by coming out here. The galaxy is watching. If we ignore these requests, we're saying we only protect humans. If we accept, we're committing Earth to a much larger role than anyone anticipated. Foster set down the data pad and walked to the view screen, looking out at the stars. She had joined Earth's military to protect her homeworld, to serve her species. She had never imagined becoming a guardian for dozens of other civilizations. But wasn't that what strength meant? Not just the power to defend yourself, but the responsibility to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Send a message to Earth Command, Foster said. Summarize these requests and request guidance. In the meantime, acknowledge receipt of all communications and inform them we're reviewing their proposals. Later that afternoon, Foster met with the rescued colonists in the Defiant's main briefing room. 300 people crammed into a space designed for half that number, but no one complained. They looked at her with expressions ranging from gratitude to awe to confusion. I wanted to personally welcome you and ensure you're all being taken care of, Foster began. Medical reports show most of you are ready to continue your journey. We'll provide escort to your destination and ensure you arrive safely. A woman in her 30s, holding a small child, raised her hand hesitantly. Captain, we heard the Council wanted you to negotiate with the pirates instead of rescuing us. Is that true? Foster chose her words carefully. The Council has different protocols than Earth military. They prefer diplomatic solutions. So they would have left us there. They would have attempted to negotiate your release. That process takes time. Time we didn't have, an older man said. Our life support was failing. Another few days and he didn't finish the sentence. You're safe now, that's what matters. A young boy, perhaps 7 years old, pushed to the front. Captain Foster, are you going to stay out here, to protect people? The room fell silent. 300 faces looked at her, waiting for an answer. Behind them, through the view screen, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Out there, countless beings traveled through space, vulnerable to those who preyed on the weak. "I don't know," Foster answered honestly. "That's not a decision I can make alone, but I can tell you this. Earth doesn't abandon people who need help. We'll do everything we can to make this galaxy safer." The boy nodded, satisfied. "Good, because the monsters are scared of you now. I heard the pirates talking before you arrived. They said you were death itself, that humans don't negotiate or show mercy." Foster knelt down to the boy's eye level. "We show mercy to those who deserve it. We protect those who need protection. And yes, we're very good at stopping bad people from hurting innocents. But we're not death. We're just very determined guardians." After the colonists left, HFY found Foster standing alone in the briefing room. "Captain, Earth Command responded to your message." "That was fast." Fleet Admiral Stevens took personal interest. "She wants a full report, but the preliminary response is, they're sending 4 more ships like the Defiant, 1 for each major sector. They're calling it the Guardian Initiative." Foster absorbed this information. 5 massive warships, spread across the galaxy's major trade routes. Enough firepower to deter any pirate group, any criminal organization. Enough presence to make everyone feel safer. Or to make some species very nervous. 6 months after the Defiant first entered the Sanctuary 7 system, the galaxy had changed in ways both subtle and profound. Piracy rates had dropped 67% in sectors where Earth vessels maintained a presence. Trade volume had increased proportionally. Insurance costs for merchant vessels had decreased by half in protected space. But more than economics had shifted, something fundamental in how species viewed the concept of security. Rena finished her shift at the monitoring station and prepared for the journey home to her family. Her supervisor had approved extended leave so she could travel with her children to visit her parents on their homeworld, a trip she had postponed twice due to safety concerns. Now the route was safe. An Earth destroyer, smaller than the Defiant but no less capable, maintained regular patrols along the commercial lanes. The vessel's name was Resolution, and just knowing it was there let Rena sleep peacefully on the transport ship. Aboard the Defiant, Foster stood in her ready room reviewing reports from the other Guardian vessels. The destroyer Resolution under Captain Bernard Williams, the battle cruiser Vigilant commanded by Captain Anna Woods, the heavy cruiser Sentinel with Captain Dmitry Volkov at the helm, and the carrier Protector, whose commander, Captain Amara Singh, coordinated the fleet's fighter squadrons. 5 ships, 5 sectors, 5 captains who shared Foster's philosophy that strength existed to protect, not to conquer. "Captain, Ambassador Taran is requesting a meeting," HFY announced from the bridge. "In person or holographic?" "In person. She's aboard a diplomatic shuttle requesting permission to dock." Foster raised an eyebrow. Taran had been communicating regularly via hologram for months, coordinating Earth's security operations with Council logistics. An in-person visit suggested something significant. 20 minutes later, Taran sat across from Foster in the ready room, her whiskers twitching with what Foster had learned to recognize as nervous energy. "Captain, I have news from the Council. After 6 months of debate, they've reached a decision regarding Earth's Guardian Initiative. And they're officially recognizing it. Earth vessels will be granted authorization to operate in Council space with full legal authority to pursue criminal activity, provide emergency assistance, and maintain security operations." Foster leaned back in her chair. "That's quite a change from demanding we stand down 6 months ago." High Counselor Wren fought it until the end. He believes we're normalizing violence, returning to barbaric times, but the majority of representatives voted in favor. The results speak for themselves. Piracy is down, trade is up, and citizens across dozens of worlds feel safer than they have in generations. What changed Ren's mind? Or did he simply get outvoted? Taran's expression turned sad. His own people changed his mind. The Venari, Ren's species, suffered a pirate attack on a colony transport 2 months ago. 43 killed before your Captain Williams arrived with the resolution and stopped the assault. Ren's own grandson was on that transport, survived because of your people. Foster felt a pang of sympathy. Ren had opposed Earth's approach out of genuine philosophical conviction, not malice. Having that conviction challenged by personal experience must have been devastating. How is he handling it? With grace, actually. He admitted publicly that ideology must sometimes bend before reality, that his commitment to pacifism had blinded him to the suffering of those who needed protection. Taran paused. He asked me to convey his personal thanks to Captain Williams, and to you. I'll pass that along. There's more. 17 species have formally requested partnership agreements with Earth. They want training for their own security forces, joint patrols, technology sharing. You've changed the galaxy's entire approach to defense. Foster stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Earth had entered the galactic community quietly, carefully, trying to find their place among civilizations thousands of years older. Now they had found it, though not in the way anyone expected. We're not perfect, Ambassador. Earth's history is full of mistakes, times when we use strength for oppression instead of protection. We have to be careful not to repeat those errors. I think you will be. Your people understand the weight of responsibility in a way many species have forgotten. Taran joined her at the viewport. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you join Earth's military? What made you choose this path? Foster was quiet for a moment, memories surfacing. When I was 12, my parents and I were on a civilian transport that suffered a catastrophic systems failure in deep space. We were stranded, drifting, life support failing. No one came. Earth's rescue capability was limited back then. We managed to repair enough systems to limp home, but it took 17 days. 17 days watching the oxygen counters drop, wondering if we'd die out there alone. I'm sorry. It taught me something important. That being alone is terrifying. That having someone looking out for you, someone who will come when you call for help, matters more than almost anything. I joined the military so other families wouldn't have to feel that fear, so no one would have to wonder if they'd be abandoned. Taran nodded slowly. That's why you couldn't leave the Meridian colonists, why you couldn't follow our negotiation protocols. I've been them. I know what it feels like to think no one is coming. I won't let others experience that if I can prevent it. A comfortable silence fell between them. On the view screen, a commercial transport passed safely on its route, its crew unaware of how much had changed in the past 6 months. What happens now? Taran asked. Will Earth expand the Guardian initiative further? That's above my pay grade, but I imagine so. As more species request partnerships, as more regions need security, Earth will respond. Not because we want power or territory, but because it's the right thing to do. Some will still fear you, see you as conquerors in waiting. I know, and they have valid reasons given history, given how power corrupts. All we can do is prove through our actions that we're different, that humanity learned its lessons. Taran smiled. I believe you have. The Defiant entered this system 6 months ago, and yes, the galaxy screamed in terror. But now when parents put their children on transport ships, they sleep easier knowing you're out here. When merchants travel dangerous routes, they're grateful for your presence. Terror has become comfort. That's quite an achievement. Foster returned to her command chair as Taran departed. Akefer approached with the daily status reports, but Foster waved them away for a moment. How's the crew holding up? She asked. Good, morale is high. They're proud of what we're doing out here. And you, any regrets about how things turned out? Akefer smiled. "Captain, I joined Earth's military for the same reason you did, to protect people, to make sure no one feels abandoned when they need help. We're doing exactly that. No regrets." Foster nodded and accepted the status reports. Everything nominal, all systems green. The Defiant was ready for whatever came next. On a transport ship traveling through formerly dangerous space, Rena held her children close and looked out at the stars. In the distance, barely visible, the Defiant passed on its patrol route. The massive warship that had once terrified her now represented something different. Safety, protection, the knowledge that someone was watching. Her son pressed against the viewport, trying to get a better look at the distant vessel. "Mom, why did everyone say the humans were scary?" Rena thought about her answer carefully. "Because they're very strong, and people fear what they don't understand." "But they're nice, they protect us." "Yes, they do." "Then people were silly to be scared." Rena smiled and ruffled her son's antennae. "You're right, they were. Sometimes the scariest-looking things turn out to be the kindest." The transport continued its journey, passing safely through space that had claimed dozens of vessels before Earth arrived. The galaxy had learned a difficult lesson. That peace required more than good intentions and diplomatic protocols. Sometimes it required the willingness to stand against those who preyed on the weak, to be strong enough that evil thought twice before acting. The galaxy had screamed when Earth's battleship entered their space. They had feared humanity's capacity for violence, their military strength, their willingness to use force. But fear had transformed into something else, into gratitude, into partnership, into the recognition that sometimes the most protective species are the ones who understand violence well enough to prevent it. The Defiant continued its patrol, a silent guardian watching over countless lives. Captain Foster sat in her command chair, ready to respond to any threat, any call for help, any innocent in danger. Because that was what humanity had chosen to be. Not conquerors, not colonizers, not the galaxy's rulers. Its protectors. And the galaxy, though it had taken time to accept, was safer for it.